Race to the Finish, a safe space to have an honest discussion about race. We are so happy that you're joining us today. My name is BJ. I'm your moderator. We're going to cover some heavy topics, but we're going to speak truth to power. And we're going to do it biblically, hoping to build a bridge from our hearts to yours to bridge the divide of racial injustice in our society today with love. We have an awesome panel, a powerful panel on tap today for you. And we're going to have them introduce themselves to you here in just one moment. This handsome man to my left is my husband, Noel. Hey. Okay, so he'll say a little bit more a little bit later. But let's go ahead and get started with our panel. We're going to go ahead and have them introduce themselves to you. Carolyn, would you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Carolyn. I'm here out in Houston, Texas, and I'm glad to be here tonight.
We are happy to have you. Jenny, would you introduce yourself, please?
Yes. So my name is Jenny Walker, and I was born in Minnesota, so a little bit of that may pop out. I live now in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and my amazing husband and my almost 5-year-old son are who I spend the most time with. But I love to research. I love people. My background is teaching, and I just, I'm excited to be here.
Well, we're happy that you're here. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the show. Deborah, would you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, Deborah, aka Sunshine Rollins. And I am here from Indianapolis, Indiana. And happy to be here as well.
We are happy to have you. Welcome to the show. Mr. Green, would you please introduce yourself, sir?
Yes, my name is Reginald Green. I'm currently living in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm happy to be here tonight with you guys.
Thank you for being here. Welcome, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Did you want to say anything?
Oh, yeah. Hey, everybody. Noel, as y'all heard the introduction earlier, I'm glad to be here as well. Can't wait to see what God has in store for us today in this conversation.
Welcome to the show.
Hey, well, thank you for having me.
So listen, Race to the Finish is basically a conversation, okay? So 5 questions are sent in from our viewers or our panelists, and we're gonna speak to those questions based on the skin that we're in. Everyone here is a lover of Christ, and they're gonna come from that angle. So prepare yourself. We're gonna say white, we're gonna say black, you know. We haven't said colored in a while, but we might. So just prepare yourself, okay? Be ready to hear what is being said, and hopefully it will motivate you to have conversations with people who don't look like you, okay? So let's move forward. We're gonna start with our first question. We have 5 questions tonight that we are going to discuss. And actually, I'm gonna start with the 4th question. I'm going to start with the 4th question, and it looks like I have 2 4s on here. Oh, wow. Okay, I'm going to start with the first 4th question. If you can't have fun, you're not doing it right. All right, so the question simply says, is there racism in the church? Is there racism in the church? Let me tell you something. The 11 o'clock hour on Sunday is the most segregated time of, I don't know, the week. We have so many churches that are called a Black church or a white church or a Hispanic church or an Asian church. But I'll let you know that in heaven, we're all the church. Do you understand? Yes. We're all one. But a place that talks about love, is there a spirit of division? Is there racism in the church? Mr. Reginald, tell me, what do you think about that? Is there racism in the church?
Well, from my perspective, and as I've been raised in church all my life, and from what I see, my answer is yes, there is racism in the church. Also, there's a big, huge separation in the church. The reason I said separation is because if you read Matthew's 28, 19, and 20, it talks about God tells his disciples to go ye therefore and teach all nations, all nations. He didn't put it on a color. He didn't put it on a creed. He said all nations, and teach them and lead them and guide them to him to edify the kingdom. And so what happens, I felt that what's going on in our churches is, sister, our host said tonight about how there's so much segregation going on until you have a Mexican church, you have a white church, you have the black church, and we all coming together and we all serving the same God, but yet and still we're not coming together as one. Right. Have we stepped out of our comfort zone and went to another church? Have we ever stepped out and went back and went to not just our neighborhood, but outside our neighborhood? You know, so yes, there is racism in the church. It's so interesting how even in Acts 18, it was the Great Commission. The Great Commission is we supposed to go ye therefore and teach all nations. Are we teaching all nations? Are we? No, we're not. We teaching our children. We teaching our neighborhood. If some of us not scared to go outside the house, we teaching people at work. But is it the same color? Is it the same creed? Or are we stepping out? So God prepared us, and then he commissioned us to go out and teach the nation. And we're still sitting back in our own little houses, in our own little holes, praying and saying, oh God, it's a nation in me, where the nation in you have to reach the nation. And the only way we can reach the nation is we go out and get the nation. Jesus did it. He showed us how he went from place to place. He went about doing the Father's business. He did the Father's business. Are we doing the Father's business? Or are we taking care of our business? Are we taking care of our homes? Are we living according to the way we want to live and not according to God's word? Have we made a vow? So as I began to study and read, I began to ask God to forgive the church, forgive me, forgive my family, forgive my ancestors for not reaching out, because we haven't done it. We haven't done it. And those that are doing it, kudos to you, but we have to do more, because the kingdom of God is at hand. Yes. And he's coming back for his church without a spot or a wrinkle.
Amen. Amen. So what I hear you saying is that there is racism in the church. I hear you saying that we are to go out and teach all nations, but are we doing that? Are we stepping out of our own home? Are we stepping out of our own community to teach the gospel of Christ? That's what I hear you saying. Does anybody want to comment on that? Go ahead, Carolyn. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Deborah.
Okay, sorry. I agree with that as well, but I also think that in light of what happened even a couple years ago, and then also just the constant turmoil of the nation, I think it's that part where I feel like the church has failed the congregation. I feel like there should have been more conversations about how to love one another. And it's almost like this kind of sugar-coated side of it where it's just like, it's not teaching us the hard facts and the hard truth of what it looks like to love one another. Because, I mean, there's still comments and things like that that are said or done that people don't realize that still are harmful to say. They still don't understand that, you know, we have to watch what we say, and saying those kind of things to people because they don't know any different. I mean, it's just like, I feel like the church should have done a little bit better as far as like helping us to understand what that looks like even further, and not just within the community or just within the church. And I'll just serve in the church and not really look at the community, or as if it was a project. So if the young lady comes in and she is, you know, maybe not dressed as well, or she has a child, she's, you know, single mother, that then becomes like a project versus, you know, then actually feeding her the word and helping her through. It's almost like charity event. Oh, let's bring them in. So I think it's very different focus that the church has had for a long time. I think, facing it in a different direction and showing us even more to understand that what it looks like to love everybody and have that understanding. I think there's a book that is called, Don't Be a Jerk. I think that's what it's called. And it talks about especially the politics about Christians, not being a jerk about, especially everything that's going on and the division and things like that. So it's actually pretty good how not to be a jerk.
Well, you know what I hear you saying also, when you talk about events in recent past, I would imagine you're talking about the racial divide with the death of George Floyd and all of those things that happened. And that's correct. I was in a church at that time that didn't mention it. That didn't mention it one time from and it hurt me so bad because I wanted that was something that I needed to know about. That was something that I needed to hear. What is God saying to my man or woman of God at this time about this situation? Because I know what he's saying to me. So I agree. Did anybody else want to comment on that? Carolyn?
Hold on, apologies. My mouse keep getting stuck and I'm having to just use the keypad. But anyhow, I wanted to just kind of focus on the word racism. And we've got to stop thinking just Black or white when it comes down to racism.
That's right.
It is a system against people that don't look like you, the judgment that people make, the prejudice that's prejudging someone based on their ethnical background, whether it's Black Americans, African Americans, and I know we use that here, but Christians and people that are actually from Africa, same thing. There is a tone there. But what I want to get to, and I think Deborah had mentioned it about the love breakdown, these churches, all of them, regardless of where we are, because the churches that I go to, they're multicultural. I believe our church does a great job with communicating and understanding groups. And, we have special months that we just hone in on a certain culture, that we make them feel loved and important, and they have a say in the church. And that's just the heart of the house, right? But that's not everybody.
That's true.
And as believers, we've got to take the blinders off. Even if you don't see that, I think that we need to understand that it's our responsibility to love on people like Christ did, right? Yeah. Because you see a person come in, you never know what they're doing. And I had this, wonderful boss many years ago, and he's a white guy. And he said that when he goes into the room, knowing that there's not a lot of African Americans or people of color or minority, I'll just say that. So that'll cover everybody that's, non-white. He said, if he ever comes into the room and if there is a small minority, he said, it's on me to go over to introduce myself, to draw them in. Otherwise, they won't feel like they can be drawn in. And sometimes I think that's simply it. It definitely don't have to be racism that they're not engaging with these people and making them feel less than. It's the fact that there was no communication and they didn't have a way in to talk. Therefore, they felt like they were pushed on the outside. That's just my view. And I think even in the church, I had an unfortunate event. One of my cousin's best friends, actually, she's not in Ohio. And her friend went to a church. She felt led to go there. She went, and there were no diversity whatsoever. I'm not saying that it needed to be, but the pastor, and this is over this pandemic, over all this stuff going on in the country, the Republicans versus I'm not going down that route, but the pastor said out of the pulpit that we don't do that diversity thing. Just because you're Black walking in here doesn't mean you're going to get treated any differently. And she was looking around, and that's her sitting in the chair, right? What would you do there? But you know what she did? She joined that church. She serves along of them. She said nobody ever talks to her or whatever. She's just focused on being there because she felt like that's where God put her. She said she hears some awful rhetoric that comes through the pulpit, but she's been there over a year now. I mean, it's people's decision. And maybe that's her exercise in love to say, okay, I'm just going to stand this out, regardless of how I feel like these people don't even care, you know. And she said it was hilarious. Maybe like a couple of months ago, someone called her and said, well, hey, we're welcome you as a new member. She's like, I've been here for a year. You know, how invisible can you be at a church for a whole year and nobody doesn't even know your name? And then when you call, oh, you're the girl, blah, blah, blah. So it's just time out, and I'm gonna cut it up really short here. It's just time out for us to just pretend that there's no there's no racism, you know, or no judgment.
That's
And
right.
either way, we've got to be more cognizant. We've got to be inviting people in. Maybe the thought that they weren't invited in or loved made them feel on the outside. We don't know. This is a big conversation. But yes, we just need to be aware, sharing that love and making sure that these boundaries are broken between people. Because at the end of the day, your host said it. There's not going to be a black and white heaven. There's not going to be any respecter of people. Did you know Christ? Yes, I do. There you go. We're all there together. I step back.
And that makes us all family. It makes us all brothers and sisters, you know. Yeah. So let's take one last comment. Anybody else wanted to comment on that?
Can I go really fast?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just thinking how the church is also in the context of our daily life. It's not just the building that we gather in. And so in my daily life, just what you said, Carolyn, are we inviting people in, right? Is there that household evangelism, so to speak? Am I treating people as made in the image of God and with care, not just because I should, but because Christ has really worked that in me to genuinely care about people, to feel uncomfortable, to go meet your neighbor, to pray for it, you know, like, and to embrace it. And then from there within the church to know that it's the Lord that works that sweetness of fellowship as well. So am I just going in, getting my message, you know what I mean? And then heading out because it's my life. And so that's a piece of it, as well as, I've heard a really good quote, and I don't know who it's actually by, but it says the spirit of the age seeps into the church. And so this, I'm going to just take care of me, right? I'm going to get a little bit of Jesus and I'm going to head on out. I'm going to be comfortable. I just think even people who are surrendered to the Lord fully just need to evaluate, how can I continue to step out and invite people in where maybe there is lack of trust for some very good reasons that have nothing to do with anything I've actually done, but there may be a lack of trust, right? And so from there, I'm just going to express care, not because, oh, I'm in a better position, but just because I care. And we happen to be in the same part of God's body, in his church. And I do think the church also, something really positive that my pastor here in Tulsa did, we've seen like, they just are intentional with having people of different backgrounds, different skin colors, that kind of thing, but all biblically based, people of different things, in leadership within the church. And that's been something that we've seen has been really beneficial to just help diversify the congregation maybe a little more, in a very organic way. But another thing with that is just to be instructive. So based on where you are in the country and what you know about your community that your church is in, what things do you need to be instructive on? So even a basic thing that my pastor did on Juneteenth, he just said, hey, it is Juneteenth. As Christians, this is something that we celebrate. You know what I mean? Like he literally just said it. Like, this is something that we celebrate because we are Christians, because there were these atrocities that happened. And then finally, you know, and so it was just for like a moment, you know, but it was like,
it was acknowledged.
It was important. It was instructive, you know? So anyways, those are a few of my thoughts, and I love what you all shared. And just again, that people are people and we all need God's grace, and to say, Lord, where are you working? How can we respond to you, you know, and express your heart?
Amen. And I hear you saying that we need to invite people in, just like Carolyn's the story she gave. We need to be intentional about going up to someone instead of expecting someone to come up to me. We need to go up. And I love that lady that joined the church. She's standing on her own. She is diversifying the church herself. I just called her that. The church is receiving diversity, whether they want to receive diversity or not. But we have all been in a place where God had to bring us along. So we pray for that church, and we pray for all of those members that they will be brought along. But with that being said, because there's racism in the church, then we know that there's racism in the world, right? So the church is working on bridging the divide. So with that being said, I'm going to go to my fifth question. Because some people believe that racism ended with slavery. And I appreciate Carolyn giving us a definition of racism, and then prejudice, prejudging. So our fifth question says, and again, it's not just about black and white, but for clarity, the white population, white people are a larger majority than black people. Black people are about 14% of the population. Okay. So with that being said, the question simply says, do black and white people in the same job make the same amount of money? Do they make the same salary? So one resume says, I don't know, Deborah. And one resume says Breastina, right? Okay. And the person hasn't met either one of us, right? But they said that name Breastina, that sounds like it could be a black person's name. And Deborah, I don't know, right? Deborah, tell us, do black and white people in the same job make the same money?
That's a very good question. And I would have to say that I think I think it's on the hiring process. I think it does happen, because I have two things to say about this. So I think it does happen. Because we don't know unless you actually get people together who's at the same level, who could say, like, I came here, same time, but you get paid this and I get paid that. So I think that's the only way that you can actually find out. And I think it depends. I think if it's like through a like HR, like, here you are, here's your job, and here we go. I feel like if it's someone else who may have been a manager that hired somebody, I feel like that could happen. And a reason why I say this, and I can only show as a reference of a male-female position, is that a company I worked for, the director accidentally sent out a reply all to everybody. And he said he wanted to hire the two contractors that we had, the two freelancers. One was a gentleman, and then they're probably, one was a little bit older, maybe a little more experienced. But the other one was just as good, not as experienced or many years. I would say she was just as good. But she came in as an art director. So if you go graphic design, senior designer, you go junior art director, right? So a junior art director or an art director is higher than a senior designer. So he says, he sends this email out, wants to hire him. And he says, I want to give this guy 75,000 senior designer, and this girl 68,000 art director.
Oh my.
First of all, everybody who was already a senior designer who wasn't making that much, we're like, how did this work? And then to see that big of a difference in salary position wise. And I don't know. So to me, I would say that it does depend on the individual. I mean, obviously, for some reason, he was a male, the director was a male. So therefore, why he thought this one, but I also don't hire people. So I don't know what it takes and what they look for to say you deserve this much. And then an art director who's above a senior designer only gets this much money. So obviously we look at it as a male female issue, because they're both like solid designers. So it wasn't a question of like one was better than the other. So then I don't know. I would definitely say that it would be it would depend on the person or the company. I feel like if it was a direct hire, you know, here's HR, here's your job, everybody's treated the same. But I think when you got either smaller companies and you got someone else individually hiring people, I think it could be different. And with that, I have a friend, her name is Shauna Williams. So maybe block that out, beep that out when, when we talk about this, but no way, they're not looking her up, but her name's spelled different too. Shaunna, Shauna Williams. And she's white. So she said that it is so, and she's entrepreneur. So she has her own business now anyway. But when she was looking for a job, she said it was so hard to find a job. And then I often wondered too, because my last name was Wilson and Deborah Wilson. So I was like, I don't know, do they know what I look like? Maybe that's why I didn't get a job. But I never thought about how it was hard for her to find a job because she thinks that they automatically thought that she was not white or that she was Black. So it happens. It's interesting enough. It happens.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. All right. Anyone else want to comment on that?
You know, just thinking about it, it bothers me. Okay. I don't even, you know, I know these questions are challenging. They are meant to have not only us, but the people who are listening, watching, you know, to create thought and provoke conversation, which is always good. You know, have some introspection, talk about it. Okay. But this, it bothers me because it should be that if a person has a certain level of skill, then, you know, and they can show what they can do, then they get paid for what they can do. That's it. You know, it bothers me because I know that the enemy is out there trying to just wreak havoc, you know, and unfortunately people are dealing with issues. Everybody got some type of issue, but we're all delivered in Jesus' name, right? But I'm saying, you know, that stuff creeps into people's decision processes and, you know, preconceived notions about what they think about somebody and they don't even know someone. It's just like, I don't like that. And it bothers me just when I hear this question. So for anybody on this call or anybody who's listening who has ever gone through somebody trying to put them in a category that honestly they don't deserve to be put in, you know, I'm sorry, you know, but yeah, that's just my thought, you know, on this. It's sad, and I pray that people can step outside of this, you know, putting people in some type of category that isn't even a category, you know, in the first place, especially if you don't even know, you know, just based on a person's skill set. I think, in my opinion, skill set, education, you know, what you have done and what you, no, I'm just going to say what you can do. That's my opinion. What you can do is what you should get paid for. And, you know, yeah, that's what I think.
And who sets that salary? Who says that, you know, and I think that's where I was asking, like, I don't know who says you can choose what, here's 100,000, 150,000, I don't know, however they say, hire 2 people. So then they say, okay, I want to give this guy, even though maybe they come in at the same level, they're both senior designers. So, or, you know, whatever it is, they same level, same, you know, skill sets, things like that. Then, you know, does someone say, oh, you get a little bit more, but you don't? And how do they feel okay with that? Like, how did he think that that was okay? But also he didn't think that anybody was going to see that. So it's just like the male got more money than a female when she's doing a higher position. But again, it's just like, who determines that? Who says, you know, that this is, why can't everybody, like, you come at this level, the company says you come in at this level, this is what you get paid. And then you can go up from there depending on what we see, how much you do, or whatever you can prove these other skill sets to be.
You know, I got to say one other thing. I have seen a scenario. I've been at a company where they said, let's say the animators make X amount of money, right? And then they say, how much do you want to make in this whole decision, you know, interview process? How much would you like to, you know, make here? And then that person who honestly doesn't know what they're worth, lowballs it, and then they say, okay, no problem, we'll give you that. And now you make
Mhm.
what you're not supposed to be making, when really they were already set to pay you what they were, what they were going to pay. But the
Yeah.
reality is, it would be nice if right at the front, hey, this is what we pay, period. That's it. Come on.
Mhm.
But some people who in business who want to make money, and they like, hey, well, if I can pay them 20,000 less, then I'm gonna pay them 20,000 less.
Unfortunately, there isn't just racism, division based on race. There's ageism. There's all these other different divides.
Yeah.
So it's sad. It is sad, and it's disheartening. But yeah, it's out there, and I feel like Carolyn, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of add a little bit of a different twist from it. As BJ said, I was a former business owner, and I owned a staffing company. In fact, two of them.
Mhm.
And we would coach our people to never put your address on your resume. Put
Mm.
your city and your state and your phone number, of course, your name. Because what people do, and this is everybody in the hiring, if they're interested in that candidate, they're going to do the background, okay, when you get there. But they look at where you live. If you put your address on there, guess what? We go right on to Google.
Right.
Oh, that's where he lives. Okay. Well, he doesn't really need a lot because you're thinking about value. And I know it's not fair, but there are some people who take it, and that's not everybody, who take that value system a little bit different. Oh, this one is worth this one. Oh, that one is worth that one. So I don't know whose responsibility it is to make sure the pay is right, but I've been a victim of that, and I told BJ or sometime on the podcast where I went into a job, my first job out of college, at $25,000. First day, I'm all excited, went in, entry level accountant, blah blah blah, and the girl that I replaced, she came in the door S1 too. She got another job maybe like 6 months in, and the first day on the job, I pulled out the drawer, was putting my stuff in, and she left the pay stub in the drawer.
Boy.
And she was making twice as much money. We both had bachelor's degrees. We were both accountants.
Wow.
And it blew me up big time. How did that happen? We were both fresh out of college, first job. It put a bad taste in my mouth. But
Yeah.
it is what it is. I don't know how we can solve it, but I think some people just put value on folk, and say who deserves what, who deserves the other. But anyway, yeah.
So let me ask you this, and that's a terrible thing to do. So already said that the place where love should be flowing, there is division, and we're praying for that divide to be that gap to be bridged. And we found out that racism and those divisions come out into the world. So let's talk about it in family. We're going to go to question 2. Let's talk about it in a family, because our question simply says, is there a difference in biracial children whose moms are white? Is there a difference in biracial children whose moms are white? Now, let me preface this by saying biracial simply already says that there's a different nationality of parent. Biracial, more than one, right? By the way, if we can really dig, we're all biracial, triracial, whatever. I don't know. We're all mixed up with a bunch of stuff. Hello. But anyway, let me come back. So, but biracial already means that there's at least two different nationalities in this child's life. So now this question is kind of singling out, if you will, the biracial child that has a parent that's white. Okay, so I would assume then that this question means that at least one parent is what? White. Okay, and so then the other parent can be whatever. Anyway, again, it both parents are different nationalities. Okay, let me, Carolyn, tell me, is there a difference in biracial children whose moms are white?
Well, BJ, let me jump in real quick, because I think it's also, there's a difference between a biracial child who has a white mom versus a black mom, because the moms are more of the caregivers. So are there a difference in between biracial kids who are raised by white moms versus black moms?
Okay, Carolyn, tell us.
Okay, well, I can only go by experience. I have several biracial nieces and nephews in my immediate family. The moms, I have not seen a difference, honestly, but there is a fallout between their moms and the mom's mom, sort of. So all of the conflict comes from the mom who didn't want her daughter to have a biracial child, right? So, and it breaks my heart, honestly, because my nieces, up until about 4 or 5 years ago, and they're probably around 10, 15 right now, that the white grandmother didn't want anything to do with them. So they already felt deficient, number one. And because they want the love of both sides of the family. Okay, naturally, our side of the family was feeding that affection, but these kids are reaching out, trying to reach through a door that's shut. So, that's the only thing I've seen, in my, in my experience about, where the mom is white, because the mom, like I said, love my nephews and got involved, had these children. We loved them, she loved us. But, it was just that I just hated, the pain of the kid in the middle, and they were seeking affection from the door that was closed, and they had a lot of love on this side. It was just, yeah, it's a tough situation. That's all I'll say. Yeah.
I hear you saying that in that specific situation that the kids were reaching out, but no one was reaching back. So I'm sure that developed certain thoughts and feelings in
Mhm.
in them about, is there something, why isn't anyone reaching back to me? But I also will add, based on what Deborah said, as far as a biracial child being raised by a black mom versus a white mother, um, you can only give what you have, based on who you are and how you were raised. But I'm going to throw it over to anyone else that has a comment on that. Anyone else want to comment on that?
Oh, one other thing, as a result of that lack, it went from being sad and, the kids in their earlier ages to at a point where it was rage, and they seemed like they just didn't want anything to do. And it seemed like, I'm looking like, why are you saying this about white people? So it made me mad, because I'm like, man, now you sound like a racist.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's built up. And that's the thing, when you see one that you look at them, you're like, you're a biracial kid, but they want nothing to do, because of whatever hostility or whatever. And that's still not right either. But just wanted to add that twist to it.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Jenny, did you want to add?
Yeah, you hear me taking breaths.
Go ahead.
So when I saw this question, I have several thoughts, but when I saw this question, I had a student here in Tulsa that I had when I first started teaching in Northwest Tulsa, who the majority of my students were Black American or Hispanic. And anyway, he was an 8th grader in my class, and I just saw like a shift starting to happen in him, where he started off, he was new to the school. And anyways, a shift starting to happen just in his attitude and his receptiveness to any connection with me, but even with just teachers across the board. And there was some things definitely going on with him in his personal life. But basically, I had this day where I was doing some things with my 8th graders, and he goes, and I had very good relationship, very good classroom management, I guess you would say, and just worked really hard to engage the students in the learning and to meet them where they were at. And this was, anyways, and these are 8th graders, so they need to know you care about them, but they don't want you to like be too much in their business unless they tell you. So anyways, and so he's much taller than like lots of tall kids. Anyway, so he just says offhandedly, "You're always picking on the Black kids." And he was biracial. Yep. And I just paused, and another girl just jumped in and she goes, "Oh no, she is not even like that." Like she just like shut him down for me. And I was like, okay. And had this other girl not, I probably would have been like, "Hey, like, so not true, but let's chat about that later. You know, let's get back to whatever we're doing." But basically what I saw was that was not him actually trying to finger point me. It was more him trying to identify with the other students in the class that were Black. And coming to find, like, as the behaviors increased, I got invited to a few meetings that I didn't initiate, but like with his mom, who was white, and and the dad was not in the picture. And so basically my point with this is children need connection with their parents. That is the long and the short of it. And race should not be the primary identity factor. When there is an attachment void or a relationship void, people are seeking identity and meaning and value from that person that is missing. Do you know what I mean? Yes. So for him, it became something that he was starting to latch onto and to almost imitate some of what he was seeing around him. Like it was just a little bit tougher part of the Tulsa community with more poverty and just some different challenges for various reasons. But all that to say, that's what I saw in him. Was it was about the skin color. But it wasn't about that. It was about the void that was there. And at that point he was 16 as an 8th grader and needing his dad, you know. So anyways, that he's the one who come and he dropped out, and it like broke my heart. Anyways, so all that to say, here's the thing is, the other thing is, so my son is adopted. And so I do a lot of researching and things, just trying to learn about connection when a child is like transplanted or has a connection that is needed to be developed, where there is a void. And so that is something that I see is all individuals by God's design as children. And then as we progress, need a secure base, and they need their attachment with their parents. And from that, the race part needs to be acknowledged and kind of figured out alongside them, and to get oriented into like, what does that mean for me? Like transracial adoption is something that people have tried to explore a lot, and just to kind of be like, how does this child need to connect to me while still having to navigate, you know, some of those other things. So all that to say, that's just what I hear in that question is, at the end of the day, the parent is the parent, you know, and this idea of different races marrying is like a huge deal. You know what I mean? Like in our country, that was like illegal, you know, it's like, which is ridiculous. But anyway, so I'm like, celebrate it, you know what I mean? And yet just to know, keep that connection close. And when there is a void, people coming alongside those children, kind of what Carolyn was describing, and the family helping them. So anyways, there you go.
Thank you. I think that goes to It Takes a Village. Were you going to say something?
I was just going to say, I really loved, as I'm listening, I keep thinking about, you know, people want to be connected to one another. They want to feel like they're heard and that they're loved and that they're paid attention to. You know, void of, you know, skin tone or even to say ethnicity or classism or whatever, you know, but people just want to be like, hey, I'm here, you know, and I want to people to know that I'm here and I want people, I want to be cared about. It doesn't,
Yes.
from little to, old, everybody just wants to be part of this thing. And if we all just do better about reaching out to our neighbor, this thing will be better. And when I say this thing, this whole big picture that we're trying to get to as we're having these discussions. So I think that's real cool. Thank you for sharing, your testimony about the young man, because that's really it. I think you hit it right. I got goosebumps when you talk about he was missing his father.
Yeah.
Because listen, I know me and my dad have a great relationship, but when I was younger, my mom and my dad went through some things, and I'm still dealing with some stuff, and any of that father son type commenting, I feel goosebumps about stuff like that. And so I know that young man, 16, of course, and then he's dealing with, trying to figure out who he is.
That's it.
Be connected, and so and all he needs is love from somebody.
Right.
Exactly.
And not to discount the role of his mom there. You know what I mean? Not at all. But just to say, at that point in his life, in the age that he was and where he found himself, that's very much what I saw was in boys, men need, they do need that, like, identity is very much bestowed by the father in many ways, or that they can emulate. So anyways, he was looking for someone to emulate but be connected to.
True.
Yes.
Anyway,
can I say one more thing?
Go ahead, Carolyn.
And I'll make it quick. Noel, he reminded me when he talked about, everybody wants to feel loved and accepted, regardless of what skin you're in. And Jenny mentioned about the triracial adoption. I think that's how you labeled it.
Yeah, transracial.
Okay, so I think about, and it's a really great story though. Angelina Jolie, right? She adopted the child from Africa, and this girl could have anything she wants on this planet, raised with those superstars. And she was from Africa, and she was raised here, and I guess she got to experience, some, the good life. But she chose to go to Spelman College. They actually moved her in a couple of weeks. So she's going down to Atlanta to an HBCU. You would think, why would a person like that? It's all about identifying. She's been able to bridge relationships with almost everybody in that circle. But for her to look in the mirror and say, you know what, I need to explore who I am. I know I came from Africa, but I at least want to be in an environment where I can understand, et cetera. That's important. So we can't peel that back. And I'm glad she made that decision. And I think she'll be very well-rounded. It's not about being black brainwashed or anything like that. It's just to identify with who she is.
Absolutely.
So that's all I want to say.
Absolutely. I think so many people, their identity is not celebrated. And Jenny mentioned that. And that's a whole part of even what we're doing now. Everything that God made was good. So we need to celebrate the differences that we see, and we need to come alongside and be a part of other people's lives who look different than we are. I recall being in the hair care aisle in the store looking for something for black hair. That's what I got. Okay. And there was a white mother there that had a daughter who she had to be biracial, but she was having trouble trying to figure out what kind of products to use for her hair. So she asked me, and I have a daughter, we have a daughter, asked me, what is a good product? Okay, well, guess what? I was able to tell her what I use and what does this and what doesn't what doesn't do that. But here's the thing. We need to have people that don't look like us all around us. And when you talked about Angelina Jolie's daughter going to Spelman, there, I don't know how many black people were around her, but the Black people, the white people, the Asian, there needs to be different cultural experiences, period. And we need to intentionally make those connections.
True.
Intentionally, we need to join groups. We need to do whatever we can do to make those connections.
Yeah.
So here's my other question. If you have someone who's 16, going through some changes, trying to figure out who he is, does he present himself in one way in front of one group of people and present himself differently another way, another way in front of a different group of people? It's a little thing called code switching. Okay? And I wonder, first of all, is code switching bad? Talk to us about code switching, and is code switching a bad thing? Is code switching bad?
You know, that question is a little loaded to me because it depends on how you're looking at it. I think we should be who we are, right? God has created us all different, because we're unique and we're beautiful, and so be you, right? Be you. You don't have to perpetrate. You don't have to fake the phone, and I think that code switching, if I just think about it in its plainest context about, I'm going to act one way amongst my people, and then I'm going to act another way amongst other people. That's honestly, as I think more about it, I think it's fake. Just be whoever you are. Don't matter where you are, just be who you are so that people can experience who you are and learn. So I think if you are doing that, being, just being different personalities, acting different ways, I think that there's a fundamental problem, because I think there's probably an identity situation going on, in my opinion. Now, if code switching, I was just doing some research here, and all the code switch definitions that I came up with is not what I thought code switching was. I'm thinking code switching is just, I'm acting one way amongst, I'm just going to say it, I'm acting one way with, my brothers, and sisters, so to speak, versus, how I'm acting in corporate America, if you will. That's what I thought it was. But I'm looking here, definition, just pulling this offline. Y'all can do it yourself. Code switching. What is it? Code switching is the process of alternating between one logistic code to another. Logistic has to do with the way, just your words, not so much your mannerisms, but your words. They were talking about, I saw an example of, you may have two Hispanic individuals, Hispanic American, if I'm saying it correctly, may know Spanish and English. And if they're talking and in that same conversation, they're speaking English and then they switch to Spanish and then they switch to English and then they switch to Spanish. Anytime that language switches, that's a code switch. That's what I've been seeing in multiple sources. This is what I'm seeing. But I did not realize it just had to do maybe with language. But like I said, the thought that I had was it had to do with the way one is carrying themselves and all that. And if you just carrying yourself differently around different folk because you're trying to blend in and merge and all that type of stuff, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. Find out who you are and be who you are. Who did God say that you are, right? Be that. I know the world have us, think, hey, you're supposed to be one way, you're supposed to be another way, whatever. Just find out what God say about you and do that. It'll make things a whole lot simpler. And I'm talking to y'all, but I'm talking to myself as well. Because, hey, I'm in corporate America. I talk to these people all day, every day on the phone. Honestly, I don't think that, maybe I should talk to them like, I should just talk to them regular. Hey, what's going on? I understand that you have an issue with your bill. I can help you out. Whatever, I don't know. All I'm saying is, I think there's an issue when you're trying to front, and not be real to who you are, and if you're being fake, then there's a problem. But if that's who you are, then just be you. So that's my
Right. I feel like if it's as if you have to be someone different in front of others. So if it's more of you have, like if you're around a bunch of white people, then you have to act like that. Like there's that, like you're saying too, there's no sense of acting like that. If people don't accept you for who they are, it's kind of what we talked about yesterday as well. It's just like, it's a moment where people didn't accept that. Like, no, you can't talk like this. You can't say this slang, or, whatever it is. And because people didn't want it, but it's just like, I don't know. That's what makes us unique. That's what makes us, have that characteristic or whatever. I mean, I don't know. Mija and I will talk and I don't know. I feel like I mimic her and say things like how she says it because it's funny, and then you just go back and forth. But do I act like that in front of like other friends? Probably not. I probably say something different or still be silly around them. But I feel like, I don't know, you just kind of communicate in such a way where you share those type of aspects and relationships of like, the conversation that you're having.
Just to add to that, what Deborah and I have been friends for quite a while, but one of the things that really solidified our friendship was we were in a huge corporate meeting and we were out of town. And she said something to me, I don't know what it was, but I said, "You're just saying that to me because I'm Black." Now, when I said it loud. I said, she's already laughing. And I said, now everyone around basically were mostly white, and woo, they shrilled. Oh my God, what's happening? And this girl cracked up. I was joking, but it was me, number one, being me, probably being one of, I don't know, 2 or 3 Black people in the whole room. And in addition to that, you have to invite people in to allow them, as we have said so many times in this show, to be who they are. And this girl laughed so hard, I will never forget that. I could never get her with that. Oh, you just said that to me because I'm Black. And I said that to some other people.
Always. It was always like that.
Some other people, and they did not take it very well. They went into a whole thing. Oh, I'm not, I would never. I was like, calm down.
I think that was like the funniest part, though. I think because we laughed, and the way that you would say things would be so funny about situations, and you would call out situations in such a unique way, and you were just like, it's because I'm Black. And I was like, I don't think so, but sure. But then I started thinking maybe it is. I don't know. But it just was this running joke that I think a lot of people didn't get. And I think maybe too, it's just like, again, it's just one of those situations where, people really said, oh no, we can't have this kind of conversation. We're like, yeah, we can have this conversation because it's funny.
You can have that kind of conversation. Yes, you can. You can have that kind of conversation.
Can I say this one thing though? We were going.
Let me say what I'm saying. If we are in a church and we say we love one another, then we should care about what our fellow man cares about.
Yes.
So that's about. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I think showing that division, I think there was so much division that it's pointing it out in such a humorous way, in a sense of like, this is what's happening. And you're like, I think it is. Like, I think this is true. And we were going down 65, and you have Whitestown on one side, and then you have Brownsburg on the other. And when she pointed that out, I think I just lost it, because I was like, she's like, why is Whitestown on one side of the interstate and Brownsburg is on the other side of the interstate? And I said, I don't know, but that might be something. It might be something. I don't know. I mean, there's some history there. Who knows? But
but the bottom line is there was no code switching there.
There was no code switching. No.
There was no code switching. And that developed our friendship. And guess what? It should
It's
develop
10
a lot of
o'clock.
relationships, all around. You being you. You
Yeah.
find out who God made you to be and be that.
Yeah.
But I want to ask one final question. One final question. So we know that Black people have been through some trauma, right? And no, racism isn't just about Black and white, but Black people have been through some trauma. So the question simply says this: should Black people expect America to fix the wrong that has been done to them, or should it just be water under the bridge? Jenny, what do you think about that?
Yeah. So we could spend a long time on this one. And it requires a lot of serious consideration, because I was thinking about it. It's really a formative question in our approach to people in our communities, politically, just how we express care in our interactions with others. So this is not a comprehensive response. I'm going to stick within the 3 to 5 minutes.
Okay.
But I jotted down some thoughts earlier. I'm going to kind of look over them here. So I was just thinking about how we live in a highly individualistic culture. So this idea that I might bear some responsibility to someone of another group, or who that I don't even know, or whose ancestors experienced injustice before I was even alive. Those kind of things produce some very different reactions in people. So some people, when they hear that a community maybe should make reparations for things that happened, for example, some people are all in on that. They're like, yes, we need to do that. Some people just reject it outright. Like, nope, don't even tell me. Like, this is my life. I had nothing to do with that. Others, it's just not even something they've thought about. And it's something that you're starting to hear more about, that people are starting to talk about more. So on that note, knowing that many people, even people that love the Lord, that are Bible believing, things like that, are people with different backgrounds, have very different perspectives. And so how to answer this question, I'm going to take a sec first and look at something that Timothy Keller, a pastor in New York City, said about this. And he's written and preached extensively about racism and what our responses as Christians saved by grace should be to the society that we live in. So not just, oh, racism is wrong, but within the context of the society that we're in, what does that mean we do? So he writes in his essay called The Sin of Racism about how there are competing theories of justice in our present day culture. Someone might see justice as wholly a matter of merely giving individuals their due. The other tends to see essentially all poverty and crime as the result of systemic injustice, not personal responsibility. It can definitely be some of both, but he reminds us that actually in the Bible, there's definitely personal choice, personal accountability, but that the biblical view of justice gives a lot of weight to social structures as well. And that's something that I think people do need to learn about. So, for example, God holds nations and groups accountable in the Bible. There are people such as Daniel who acknowledge that they're part of a community or a people group that has sinned against God, either in the present or in the past. Just in 1 Corinthians, Paul points out, if one member suffers, all the members suffer, right? So we should care. It doesn't mean that we need to run around trying to make ourselves not feel guilty, right? Like, so there's definitely that. But at the same time, we don't just say, oh, I wasn't there for that. It doesn't affect me. So the question, should Black people expect America to fix the wrong that has been done to them, or should it just be water under the bridge? The answer is definitely complex. I like Native Americans, they're getting reparations. There are a lot of things that have happened there at federal, state, local levels to make things right for a lot of the injustices that happened to different Native American tribes. I would say that a lot should be done to make more repair for Black Americans. This is starting to be something that's being considered more seriously in our country. Right now, living in Tulsa, it's something that I know a lot of people throughout the country have heard of, but the Tulsa race massacre that occurred over a century ago now, the remaining survivors who are children of that time, there's legal action where they're seeking reparations for something that happened so long ago, including like toward the city of Tulsa. So there are people saying, well, I live in Tulsa, but I wasn't there for that. Why should Tulsa, take care of this? And I would say there, like as a citizen of Tulsa, I should care what happened to my fellow citizens.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so just this dismissiveness should not be our response. It should never be, oh, I'm just going to dismiss that. Wasn't there for that. We should care. And not only that, but we live in a country where there is a legal system that is founded on the idea of liberty and justice for all, and that has happened imperfectly, but there are things in this country that people can more and more access justice more and more compared to many parts of the world. So we need to use what is available. But again, I think just looking at the fact that there are lasting repercussions that reverberate into the present, that affect people, we as Christians cannot say it's only the individual. We do have to see that God cares about people, and he calls us to that. Like in Micah 6:8, when he says, he's shown you, O man, what is good. What does the Lord require of you? To do justly, to love mercy,
Yes.
to walk humbly with your God. So what does this actually look like? So there's the question, because different parts of our country, different people have had different experiences of injustice or live in a part of the country that maybe there have been some atrocious things that happened just in the last few decades or very recently. But also a lot of people, like I was talking with my sister, and we both grew up in a Christian home. I went to a private Christian school in Minneapolis with a pretty diverse like student body. Just a sweet experience of what fellowship and sincere love of the brethren actually is. And it was something that I think shouldn't just be an oddity. You know what I mean? Like it was very special. And I don't know that I realized how important that was. But all of that to say, I think we need to be careful of sweeping indictments of like the education system or this community or that kind of thing. But in the communities that we live in, we need to say, how can we be strategic? How can we be justice oriented? So that changes that need to happen can happen. And we can't put our ultimate hope in America because America doesn't save. But we are called to be the repairers of shalom, right? Like in this world where we live, God calls us to reflect kingdom values. And so again, this is where as a Christian, as a believer, it's only because of the Lord and him creating people that I even see the inherent value and worth of every single person. You know what I mean? So from that, I just want to point out, if someone committed a crime years and years ago, they can still be tried. They can be convicted. You know what I mean? And so I don't know that we're looking to convict America, right? Some people are kind of on this, like, we need to go like prove how bad it was. And that doesn't mean we shouldn't be learning about it. Like I get surprised how ignorant people can be of the injustices. I'm like, hello, have you read a book? You know what I mean? Have you seen, like, anyway, sorry, that was maybe a little rude to say, have you read a book? But anyway, all that to say, we do need to think about how do we come alongside our fellow people and not just talk about it, but really do something, because it takes time and it takes effort to learn about things and to actually turn those into action. So I don't need to run around frenzied. I don't need to just tweet about something and then go back to the couch. You know what I mean? I need to consider where I live. I need to consider where God is asking me to join, where he's working. And again, not place my hope in America, but care about the people in America, which includes caring about things that have already happened. So I'd love to hear more thoughts because I know the answers can be varied and especially depending on where you live in the country too. There could be different thoughts. So anyway, there you go.
Thank you for sharing that. We're only going to take 2 quick thoughts. Anybody wants to comment on that really quick?
I just wanted to say
Okay.
I appreciate you sharing, because it makes me ask myself, what's my action plan? What am I going to do? Have I been doing anything? If I haven't, what am I going to do? And so it's encouraging to really look at, because
Have I written a letter to those that survived? I mean, like literally just that kind of thing. You know what I mean? The personal perspective, like that these are people. It's not just like that they're a face of something that happened, because they are, but to be like, have I expressed care as someone in this community? You know what I mean? It doesn't mean I need to sit there and say, oh, I'm so guilty of whatever it is. Like, I'm not saying that. I'm saying I care about these people as people who live in Tulsa. And it breaks my heart to see a lot of the sort of segregated areas still within our city that have historical reasons for it oftentimes. So
Correct.
anyway, so lots of things. So what do we do? Do something,
That's correct. I'll add to that, and we've said this on this show before. If your neighbor's house burns down, just because your house doesn't burn down doesn't mean you shouldn't have some sympathy for the fact that your neighbor lost their house. Their house burned down. They might need something. Have you just said, oh, I'm so sorry that this happened to you? Something as simple as that, a little bit of comfort. So one last comment, Carolyn, were you going to say something?
Yeah, just quickly, what Jenny was talking about, the reparations. I personally am not a fan of reparations, but there is one particular exception I can say with the Tulsa, the Black Wall Street, where all of those businesses got burnt down, et cetera. And I think the burden of proof are on the people. Just think about it. There were, millionaires or people that were very affluent in the Black community who were making great strides to pass down a legacy. And when all that stuff went to the ground, the kids in those generations missed out on that opportunity.
Yeah.
The same land that's there was sold to other people who have been making money off that for years, right? Who occupied that space, et cetera. And there was no means for these families to even get back anywhere near that. So in cases like that, I don't think that America should pay for it. Who owns the property now? Who has had it since then? And if this rightfully belonged to Black people, whatnot, then they should do the right thing to help pay back some of that money, not America, the perpetrators.
Right.
I don't know. But yeah, we're about to run out of time. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there.
I appreciate that, Deborah. Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead.
I do want to comment on what Carolyn is saying as well. There's another book, a couple books that I found by Shelby Steele, and he has been doing research for years now of the racism in America. I think it even started with Rodney King. And so he's got a lot to offer as far as like the perspective of it. And I wanted to, and I think this is like perfect to what we're talking about. And it's like, what he was saying is that we're a little bit better than we were in the past, but we still like structurally are aligned against Black and minorities. But Blacks and minorities have risen to many levels of like careers and even presidency, but there are still so many barriers to overcome. And I think that's the thing, that I think not recognizing what has been going on, and that's kind of like shame on America for not saying like, this is what's going on and we need to fix this, the morality of it. Like they just kept trying to do in good intention to have these social programs that have now just failed and have hurt other people and continue to put them in a position where they can't ever get better. So I think that's the thing that, looking at that and saying like, having another program that's going to fail, like we can't do this. There's got to be something better. And also acknowledging, going back to history, making sure that people do understand what happened, because my daughter and I even talked about that. Like, I didn't know some of this stuff when I was growing up. Like, why aren't you telling us this? How different is this going to be if we all knew about this?
Exactly, because a lot of people didn't even know about the Tulsa massacre. People who went to school in Oklahoma did
Mhm.
not know. So yeah, that's crazy. So listen, we're gonna move on to our final segment, which is called "Where's the Lie?" Okay, we have so many questions that come through. We're not able to answer all the questions. We're not able to address them all. But I'm going to throw some of those questions out to the panel, and they have a sign, and they're going to say this is a lie, or they're going to say this is truth. Okay, they have signs, guys. They have signs. Some homemade, some whatever, but they have signs, and they say this is the truth or this is a lie. So you'll see that creativity when those signs go up, okay?
I feel like there might be peer pressure though.
Well,
Mm,
Should we like blindfold? There's, like cover our eyes.
uh,
I think it's fine. Whatever your answer is, whatever your stand in your truth, Deborah. Whatever your answer is your answer. All right. So there's only a couple of them. And so if for some reason you don't have a sign, you can say L if you choose for lie, or you can say T for truth. He doesn't have. Okay, all right. So here we go. And you're not gonna answer though until I say 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna give it, I'm gonna say it, and then on 3, then on 3, you're gonna put it up. All right, ready? First, here's the first question. All Black people are good dancers. Don't answer yet. All Black people are good dancers. Is that a lie or is it the truth? Ready? 1, 2, 3, go.
no, I feel so bad saying this.
All, I mean, define all. Like all.
I know.
All.
Listen,
Some or all.
But commonly.
All is all. Okay. All right. Here's the next question. Wait till I say 3. Don't rebel, Deborah. Okay, here we go. All Mexican people speak Spanish. All Mexican people speak Spanish. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go.
Are we saying Mexican American
I
or just
Mexican people. Okay.
Mexican people?
Oh.
Well,
Don't go too deep.
no,
Stay on the surface.
because in
Stay on
Mexico,
the surface. Stay on the
Well,
surface.
you have
All
to
right.
think about it.
Now, here's the
everything.
next one. Ready? All white people are wealthy. All white people are wealthy. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. What? All white people aren't wealthy?
You're not wealthy.
All right, here you go.
I don't have much, but what I have, I'll share.
Wonderful. Here we go. Here's the next one. Black people experience racial trauma almost every day. Black people experience racial trauma almost every day. 1, 2, 3, go.
I don't know.
not every single one, but I also want to say this.
What
It
if
depends on who, but
what
it
if
could
I'm
be.
not Black?
I don't know.
Wait,
I
racial
don't-
trauma every day.
If I'm not Black, how do I know?
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, and who and where.
Okay,
No,
so
yeah.
here we go.
No.
Put them down. Let's answer real quick because we had so many different. Okay. Black people experience racial trauma almost every day. 1, 2, 3, go.
Oh.
Put your answers up.
I can't answer that. I don't know.
Okay.
don't-
All right. Deborah says not Black, so she can't answer.
I don't know. I mean,
Well, statistically, trauma can be, that's another, I won't start, but it could be very true for very many. Let's say
Okay.
that.
like residue.
When you look at
from-
the numbers in
times
foster
apart.
care and anyway, okay.
Okay,
That's right.
All right,
That's-
thank you. All right. It's a speed round. Okay, here's the next one. Black parents give their kids a script to follow when around law enforcement. Don't answer yet. Black parents give their kids a script to follow when around law enforcement? 1, 2, 3, go.
Are we saying commonly or every single time? Okay, because commonly, yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Truth. All right. It's called a talk, by the way. All right. We have 2 more. Here's next to the last one. Black women are misdiagnosed by doctors more often than white women. Black women are misdiagnosed by doctors more often than white women. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go.
I'm not a woman. I don't know what.
Oh my!
I think statistically it's more true.
I've heard. I have heard that. Yeah.
I go with yeah.
So we got the guy saying, "I'm not a woman. I don't know." You got a wife, so you know.
You're all right.
Anyway, yes, that's the truth. All right, now here's our last one. He said, "Oh, Jesus loves all people." No, wait.
Oh.
Jesus loves all people. 1, 2, 3, go.
Yeah.
Truth. Truth.
Yes.
Yes. And since I didn't receive an answer back, listen, Jesus loves all people. And everything that we have talked about tonight is a tough topic for all of us, male, female, black, white, Hispanic, Asian. But Jesus loves all people. In fact, he's the creator of each and every one of us. He took his time and put each one of us together on purpose, uniquely. My husband tells me how small my nose is a lot of the time. He had this little nose. Can you breathe? Yes, I can. Yes, I can. But guess what? God made this nose uniquely. He took time and he made this nose. Okay? He took time and he made this nose.
Yes, he did.
And he made your nose. But here's the deal. God loves you just like he loves us. And if you have listened to some of these topics and you've had a hard time listening to them, or you vehemently disagree, that's fine too. But I want to offer Christ to you. It's a simple prayer to pray, and he will help you through some of these tough topics that you're going through. Being a Black woman in America is not always the easiest thing, but Jesus carries me through every day. I would say that that's true for everyone on this call. Everyone in this show, every audience member, if you would like to invite Christ into your life, it's a simple prayer. All I want you to do is repeat the prayer after me. All you have to say is, Jesus, come into my life. I believe that you died on the cross just for me. I accept you and I will live for you all the days of my life as you show me how. In Jesus' name, amen. If you prayed that prayer, welcome to the family of God. The church is not perfect, but Jesus Christ is.
Yeah.
So the church is made of imperfect people, but Jesus Christ can carry you through. I thank you so much for joining us. We're going to give 30 seconds to each person to give final comments, and then we're going to leave. I hope you've enjoyed the show. We're going to start with Mr. Reginald Green, and we want you to give us, actually, we're going to start with, let's start with Carolyn. Carolyn, give us your final comments, 30 seconds.
Yes, I'm speaking directly to someone who might be reviewing this on YouTube. And if you happen to stumble across this video, I want to encourage you to keep listening. This episode was very challenging. There was a lot that made us all feel uncomfortable. Feeling uncomfortable is not a bad thing. It pushes you as a human being to be able to dig a little deeper under the surface of what a situation may be. You know, we're not asking for sympathy, you know, Black people are the victim, etc. We're just hoping to have conversations that invite people in to leverage one another. We need to understand each other.
Yes.
And as people of God, and if you're not, you know, love is really the foundation for anything we do as a people.
That's right.
And it's just about being considerate of your neighbors, you know, regardless of whether they're Black, brown, indifferent, whatever. But we've got to let love lead us.
Yes.
And I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you being with us tonight.
Thank you.
Jenny, can you give us your last 30 seconds, your last comments, 30 seconds, please?
Yeah, just that I appreciate you putting this together, BJ, and just that we have some very unique opportunities in this country and rights that more and more are being accessed by people that can be exercised. So I hope in this that people hear that message of hope to use the rights that they have to go and help make some changes. And there's a reason that we have so many people here, you know, is that there are rights that we have that are not ones that are experienced by others in other parts of the world. And we also do have a history of a lot of injustice mixed in as well. So again, to say, keep up hope, use the rights that you have that people have worked very hard for. And in that, remember that America can't be our final hope, but also that America is not just a government, it's people, right? And by the people, and that we, especially as a Christian, to exercise these rights, not just to create a utopia, but to say, what can I do with these rights? Even if things got worse,
very good.
Would I lose hope, right? Or would I keep trying to make a difference? So thank you guys for putting this together, and yeah, just praying that people will live it out in their lives.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, Jenny. We really appreciate you being a part of the show. Mr. Perry, 30 seconds.
I'm gonna go a little old school. There's a song by Mary J. Blige featuring Nas, talk about love is all you need. I don't know, it was just in my mind, and I just wanted to share, look it up or whatever. But hey, I love you. I don't know who you are. I know who y'all are, but I don't know who we all are. But I love you, and I care about you. That's what we're doing. So, you know, do something.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. There's an old Barney song, I love you. Okay, so Deborah, please, 30 seconds, your final 30 seconds.
Wow, I think it's gonna be less than that because everybody else said amazing things. What was the question?
These are your final remarks for the show.
My final remarks. I would say definitely just strive to just be better to people, in understanding. And I think it's definitely one of those moments where you can see we all have different viewpoints and lives. We come from different backgrounds, but yet we can still come together and talk about a very difficult subject, you know. And if you want to know more, like, definitely learn, like, pull like true information that brings that equality together, you know, and not something that is, you know, you got to find all aspects of that information so you can also form your own opinion and ideas with that, but then also just reaching out to others and just building that connection at that community of what God has called us to be.
And thank you so much, Deborah, aka Sunshine. Mr. Green, final remarks, 30 seconds.
Well, I hope y'all can hear me. I'm having some difficulties.
We can hear
but
you.
Good. Well, I just want to say that, it's been a blessing to have this conversation and this insight that we all need, because the Bible said that the people perish because of lack of knowledge.
Right.
So I thank God that He allowed you all to come together and get your brothers and sisters where we can help the body of Christ. The body of Christ is hurting. It's hurting, and it need us. It need people like us to stand on the walls, keep praying for our people. Also, all the examples that we received tonight, if you all don't mind, I would love to get the people names so we can put them in a prayer box and pray for them, pray for those situations. Pray that these young children that's going through won't become rebellion, and then because once they become rebellion, then that's a whole nother level we have to deal with. Right. A whole nother so we have to continue to pray for our churches, continue to pray for our leaders, so they can be able to tell people how to deal with racism, how to help us learn how to love each other on a daily basis, not just at our local church, but at work as well, and outside. There's so much going on in this world, and we all are hurting. There's so much hurt, but God is love.
Yes.
So He need us to spread that love abroad, spread that love. Just like Brestina, you were saying earlier how you helped a young lady about just putting oil in her baby hair. That's love. You took the time, you took the patience, and you showed and you told her, and that's what God is looking for. And so even the scripture, when I talk about go ye therefore, we have to go. We have to go. It's not in our fine houses. And I mean, I love my fine house, but it's not fine houses. It's not the land. It's not the corporate job. I got one of those too. But it's not that. It's about going out and teaching and reaching and grab hope to these people that's hurting.
Yes.
And bring healing to the land. Thank you all. I appreciate you all.
Hey, thank you so much, Reggie, for being here. We love the heart, Deborah. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of Race to the Finish. Thank you all. And may God continue to bless you. Feel free to put any questions or thoughts or prayer requests you have in the comments. We would love to hear back from you. And so thank you for joining us in Race to the Finish, a safe space to have an honest discussion about race. God bless you all, and good night.
Good night.
Bye.